Good afternoon, and welcome to the garden. It's February 27th. It's day 58 of 2021, which leaves us with about 307 more days before we give way to 2022. And today we are focusing on reflections. I've got Sophia, my pet cat. Sophia has been with us for almost 80 years. Sophia is a male cat, but somehow Sophia got a name someone would call a female name because the children weren't sure what gender he was. And of course, they looked at the color of the fur when the light struck it and thought Sophia was a beautiful name. We didn't change the name once we found out the gender. But Sophia has a peculiar behavior and attitude. He usually follows me around in the early mornings when I get out into the garden. And sometimes he sits with me on the seat, or sometimes walks around in my feet, or just sits on the grass. And this morning, Sophia sat on the grass in three different positions. And as I looked at him, I'm thinking, Sophia, if Sophia were to have thoughts, what would those thoughts be? And so, of course, you know me when it comes to creative juices. So I was thinking about reflecting. And so my inspiration today for us in the garden is based on Sophia and Sophia's way that he sat on the grass. And so we're talking about reflections. And so today, as we look at reflections, we are looking at reflections as it relates to our health status, or interaction with others, our own internal audit of ourselves, our spiritual lives, and in general, our view of others. So, of course, we know that COVID 19 is on the scene, and many of us would have underlying factors that would be a concern. So, when we reflect, what do? We take a review. A reflection is generally something you look back in a mirror. It's an image that you see when you look into a mirror. So once we are reflecting, we are going to do so with the view to review what would have gone by. We are going to do so with a view to discard what may not be of use, and also to implement what may possibly be of some good help to us. So as it relates to our health status, and we think about reflections, we are thinking, have we had those checks that we should have had, especially those of us who have underlying factors? And then, of course, as it relates to the vaccine, whether or not we choose to do it, must we also not review and think closely as to whether we're going to take or not take? So let us do some reflection as it relates to our health status. Underlying factors, just getting that check, and also with that vaccine. And then, of course, as we talk about interacting with others, how do we interact? What has our interaction been from January for the past 58 days? And so we think of our loved one, our amour, our spouse, or our significant other. We think of interacting with our children, for those of us who have children, for all the family members, for our co-workers, for our acquaintances, and even, of course, with people in general. So were we able to stand up when we needed to stand up for our rights? Did we allow ourselves to be served on someone else's platter? Were we outlandish in our behavior with the other person? Were we professional if we were in the workspace? Were we able to get our work done without having to nitpick at the small things? Were we able to listen to our children or speak to our children? Were we able to collaborate with our spouse on a number of things? Were we able to get along and keep the fire burning? And of course, in people in general, how did we interact with them, especially when we were upset about something that they would have done that didn't please us so much? And certainly as it relates to our acquaintances, or what we want to call friends in quotation marks, were we able to decipher and distinguish between the friends in quotation marks as it related to those who were roots, branches, or even leaves? Did we mix up all of them and got annoyed when we thought the branch should have been what it was when it was really the root, or what we thought the root was when it was really a branch, or even the leaves? Were we able to do that? And certainly, of course, were we able to determine which of the acquaintances or even of the other persons fell into the category of the brown leaves? You know, the brown leaves that fall off the trees, no longer have any chlorophyll, are dead, can no longer be used, or maybe in some instances can be repurposed. So those brown leaves, were we able to sort out those leaves and recycle them, or were we able to heap and then burn? Reflections about all our interactions, and certainly as it relates to our internal audit of ourselves. When we look back at our behavior patterns, our attitudes towards others, even how we think about ourselves. Did we think that we were of no use? Did we think that we were worthy enough? Did we display the right attitude and behavior towards others? Were we aware of our bloody skirts, if we had any? Were we nasty nice? Or were we really the person as professional and peaceably as we could, as we thought of our behavior? And of course, our goals and dreams and aspirations, were we able to do the baby steps, or did we just leave the dreams and aspirations alone? You know, of course, COVID-19 would have caused so many of us to tap into the unknown talents and creativity that we had within us. What did we do about all of those goals and dreams and aspirations? We need to reflect on that. And then, of course, very important, I think the most important of all, as we reflect on our spiritual lives, how was our closeness with God for the past 58 days? What was our prayer life like? Did we only call on Him because we felt pressed down due to COVID-19? Or were we always there talking to Him and communicating with Him about how we felt? What sort of outlook do we have in going forward for the rest of the year? How strong is our faith? Has our faith been shaken? Has it been strengthened? We need to do some reflection about our spiritual life. And then, of course, all about our view of others. And I just mentioned earlier about bloody skirts. So whether or not we know the person, are we guilty of having, whether it be drops or large patches of blood on our skirts because we had failed to realize that everyone is entitled to some dignity? What about those biases that we hold within us that we would have displayed sometimes subconsciously or purposefully? What did we do about that? And were we able to respect other people's views even if we were in complete disagreement with them? Did we just bust out and call them stupid, or call the view stupid, or told them they were talking nonsense? Did we do that? Or did we agree to disagree? Reflections. We would need to do some serious reflections about all of that. Our health status, our interaction with persons that we know, our own internal audit of ourselves, our spiritual lives, and then, of course, our goals and aspirations, and and even the view that we have of others. What's our reflection going to look like? Can we take a page out of Sophia's book and sit for some time today and even tomorrow to do some reflections? It's all about reflections today, February 27th, and even as we close off for February 28th, 2021. March is looking good as we implement those reflections.